Alright, in this video I'm going to be talking about some concepts in Module 4. So, some things in Module 4 that we get into is other ways to do output, more detailed strings, but most importantly, how to get input from the user. So first I want to look at text input and output. So some of this is a little bit old school. I'm going to go down to what is probably a little bit more modernized way to get input from a user using a thing called scanner. So scanner is an object. So you might remember we talked about different types of data types such as integer, double, boolean, char. They are all primitive types of data. A string, which we've already talked about, a string is not a primitive type of data. It's not a numerical type of data. A string actually is an object because you can do things with it, and you'll see what that means here in a little bit. A scanner as well is an object, meaning it has certain capabilities that go with it. I think of scanner like a tool. It's like a hammer. What can you do with a hammer? Like with a hammer, let me bring up an image of a hammer here. So with a hammer, what can you do with a hammer? Well, we all know with the hammer we can pound things in with this side, but what do you do with this side? You can pry things out. You can also use the handle itself for leverage if you want. So we can do things with a hammer. It has other purposes other than just pounding nails in. So we can do things with it. Well, scanner is kind of like that. Scanner is a tool. So we're going to create one of these things. So I'm going to go to JGrasp and I'm going to create yet a new file. And just to show you some stuff, I'm going to call this. Now I'm not taking the time to put my block comments here because this is just a demonstration file. I'm going to import this scanner utility. So the syntax for this is that I need to import from the Java folder. I need to look in a folder called util and look in there for a folder called scanner. This is how I think of this. And that's where it's going to find all the scanner stuff. So what I can do here, and again I'm going to save myself some time, so this is not something you may want to always do, but I want to make sure I'm going to call this scanner practice. And I want to make sure that I close main and make sure that I close. And I'm trying to indent so I can easily show what closes where. This ends my class. So what am I doing in here? What I'm going to do is I'm going to create a scanner tool. I'm going to call it keyboard. You could really call it whatever the heck you wanted. And I'm going to say that this scanner object that I'm creating is going to get input from the system. You can see here that I need to create a new scanner. Actually, I messed something up here. Sorry about that. I want to set aside new memory space for a scanner object that gets input from the system. That's really what this says. It says, hey Java, create memory space for a scanner object that I call keyboard. It really could be called whatever you want. And set aside new memory space for this scanner object that's going to look for input from the system. I kind of think of it as though it's actually going to be grabbing input from the keyboard. That's kind of how I think it's going to get input from the keyboard. That's how I like to think of it. So what am I going to do with this? Well, what I can do with this now is I can now use this to get input from a user. So I'm going to create an int called age, which I'm not going to assign any value. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to prompt the user using an output statement. I'm going to say, hey user, enter your age. And on the next line, I'm hoping the user types in their age. And I'm going to say, well, your age is going to be, this variable age is going to be assigned. Remember, one equal sign means assignment. It's going to be assigned what this keyboard does. The keyboard is a scanner object. What it grabs for the next integer. And just to show you what that does, I'm going to do some output again. I don't know if I can type it out. And I'm going to display your age just to show that it does work. And I'm going to concatenate and finish out this output. So I'm going to go ahead and save this. I'm going to save it as scannerpractice.java. I'm going to run it, and it will. Now I'm playing the role of developer here as well as the user. So now I can type in down here on the run input output. It's kind of waiting for me. You can even see the cursor blinking there. It's waiting for me to enter my age. So I'm going to enter my age, 26, and it says your age is 26. So what happens if I actually want to ask for someone's name? So a name is going to be what kind of data type? It's going to be a string. I'll store that as a string, and I'm going to ask the user. I'm just going to do the same kind of thing here. I'm going to prompt the user. This is my prompt user section. These are my variables. So I'm just kind of starting to section off my code, and this is just output. Using some single line comments, clean it up. This is going to ask for a name. Now, a name is not an integer. So I don't want to grab the next int. I want to grab the next line. There is no next string. It's weird. So I'm going to grab the next line. And what am I going to do? I'm just going to display output to show what the user told me his or her name. So I'm going to run this again. Now I'm going to play the role of entering my age. I'm playing user here, enter my age, and then it stops. What the heck? I can't type in here. Well, I can, but the program's done. What the heck happened? Now, let's watch what happens just to show you what the problem is here. I'm going to flip this around, and I'm going to ask for name first and then the age. See if this works. And run this, enter your name. My name is Sally, and my age is 26. Well, that worked. Why didn't it work before? Well, the problem here is when I had it this way, when I asked for the integer first, and then I asked for the name, what Java does is because I'm asking for an int, what happens is when I type that integer in, I typed in 26. Well, what did I do right after I typed 26? Well, I hit the enter key. That stroke of hitting the enter key is not integer value. So Java is going to basically pull out the integer number, and then it's going to take that keystroke of enter and throw it into next line. So this is kind of a little bit of a kooky thing with Scanner. Anytime you ask for an integer before a string, you can fix this one of two ways. You can ask for the string first, which is not always something you can do, or you can just throw away that extra enter keystroke. You can just kind of throw it away into nothing. Now you'll see back in the class, as you go through, our book, and I forget where it talks about this, but it does talk about this. You actually see that our examples, it might even be in the assignment, but there's other ways to handle this. This is how I would handle it, but there's other ways you can actually look at handling that. So that's some stuff with getting input from a user. We have to use Scanner. Alright, so there's some other things, other ways to get input from a user. You can look at this article on the Modern User Interface, which is more GUI, Graphical User Interface. I am not going to drive this point home, but you can start to read over this. You will need to know what Graphical User Interface is. A really, really, really easy way to do Graphical User Interface is to use panel dialog boxes, or J-option pane dialog boxes. They are really, really, really easy ways to get input from a user, and you are certainly welcome to use them. So you can read through this article. This is actually created by our class coordinator, and you can use these if you want to get. This will get input, and this will give us output. You can use these if you like. It's fine with me. I'm not going to really hit those really hard right now, but you can certainly use them. So we can also look at string methods. So strings, as I said before, strings are actually objects. You can do things with them. There's all kinds of cool stuff you can do with strings. So you should read over this, be familiar with the things you can do with strings. You may not have to use this a whole lot in an assignment, but you might. So just be aware that strings have ability. We can actually pull out and figure out how long a string is. So like if my name is Sally, that's S is 1, A is 2, 2 L's, 3, 4, Y is 5. So it's a 5 length string. So you can go pull out and get the length of a string. You can actually pull out a substring between a certain point and an end point. You can convert a string to lowercase or to uppercase. There's things you can do with a string. They have certain capability, things we can do with them. So you should read through that. And then there's some other things to output and format output for strings. There's some information here. Now this is probably going to help us a little bit with things like the decimal format. So one way you can do that is by doing this formatting printf. This is one way to handle formatting of output. So that decimal thing that's trailing out to a gazillion places, this is one way you could address that, is by using this format. So there's other information on strings here, and then we get into this last section on talking about strings. So a little bit beyond what we're really looking at as a main focus for Week 2, Module 4, but you should still read through this and be familiar with some things about manipulation of strings and things you can do with strings. So make sure you read through this. You can even try out some of this code. You may have to type it, but you should try these things out. So a little bit of information on what we're going to be doing in Module 4, and I'll be making another video here where I'm going to be explaining our assignments for Module 4.